Oh, damn. My show. All right. Hello, guys. Welcome to Gamer Grudge. Filling in for Mac because he is competing tonight. I am Zero, producer and temporary host.
Yeah.
For your judges tonight, we have co-producer and ever-present Angelic Sin.
Hello.
And we also have still one of our newest members, but she's been doing such a good job with everything that she's been on. Give a warm round of applause for Iretta Blaze.
Hello. Oh, come on, man.
I'm voting down. First
I'm
chance.
silent, but at least I'm not mocking people.
Right? I'll just be like this.
Now we will get to our fighters.
Is the
We
train
have-
one of the fighters?
Hmm?
Is the train that just went by one of the fighters?
Yes.
For our fighters tonight, we have a very classic grudge match between these two ever-present people within our community. We have the actual host of Gamer Grudge and the entire lead of GF1 Studios, Mac Poole.
Hey, y'all can do better, man. Okay, guys, I'm feeling that you both up a kick-ass story.
Unfortunately, he's out of both.
Yes. No, I got some in the back, though, actually.
Yes, you have asked for days, Matt. We know.
Fuck!
And
I don't know
competing
what I
against him is our standard fact checker and ever-present Snark Factory,
Hello.
Zach.
Also, thank your wife for this, and Mac, what does that look like to you?
I don't like sniper fucking sniper fucking show. Fuck
Uh-huh.
sniper show. Fuck y'all. Damn it! You gotta bring that fucker into this act.
What other episode would I premiere this on, Zero?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, what other episode would you want to premiere that on?
Yeah.
I know you wanted this so badly.
I mean, I also have my Castlevania on there too. My watch.
I still got my middle finger, so I mean, there we go.
All right.
You are getting
So-
talented, Mac.
All right. In the meantime, everybody here knows the rules. Everybody here should at least know the questions. Just waiting on, looks like Angie. Oh, Angie is there. Never mind.
So you
All right, so shall we get into our first question?
You want to play the montage, or just want to go with the question?
Let's just go with the questions, honestly.
Yeah, we'll go right to the questions because montage I figure we should save for our non-staff competitors.
Yeah, actually, let's do it.
All right, so question one, and Angie, if you'd be so kind as to read it off.
Sure. Question 1 is, what's the best pre-Symphony of the Night Castlevania game?
All right, we will start this round of answering with Mac.
My answer is Super Castlevania 4.
Okay.
I had both covers in there.
Wow, really? Okay. Alright.
All right, and Zach.
I went with Castlevania Bloodlines.
Okay.
Okay. All right, guys. Mac, you've got 3 minutes to deliberate your answer and tell us why Super Castlevania 4 is the best pre-Symphony of the Night Castlevania game. Starting now.
Well, first start, guys, when you start first playing
Get
Castlevania,
closer to the mic.
I don't want that on the outro. When you first start playing Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania 4, first get to this first part of the title screen, you get that haunting music, you get cockroaches going across the screens, rats coming through, and as the screen progresses, the sound goes and then you get that light, you get the thunderstorm, and then all of a sudden, Super Castlevania 4, you see the bats line up there. It gives the best. This game gives the best opening I have ever seen. Literally has a lightning strike Dracula's tomb. Literally strikes his tombstone, and him flying out the tomb, and then you see the little ball coming to the screen. Actually, the ball actually feel like it's filling your room. The game, this is setting up. I'm just giving you this to build up. I'm going to build this up. This is how the game starts out. And then we have the game, which is awesome. Start off in the first stage. The game also has the game. This is really one of the reason why I think this is not only the best Castlevania game, because it actually makes you feel like you are Simon Belmont. You are Simon Belmont, even though unlike other games, this is one of the games where you feel like you are playing the character, and that's rare, and that's in the SNES. It lets you whip in all 8 different directions. Yeah, it does have some difficulty in the game, and it does, but like I said, all the Castlevania games have difficulty. That's the interesting thing. But like I said, the one thing I want to talk about is the controls. The controls is good. The gameplay was simple but sweet. The intro was great hunting. And I mean, I will agree that it is technically a remake of Castlevania 1. It is. I will say that. It is technically a remake. And I will say that. I will admit that it doesn't have variety, but you gotta also understand that this is really Sega. But even before other games came out, this game was just, this is it. This is the best game to come out. And when this came out, people literally said this is literally one of the best. This is not only one of the best Castlevania games, this is one of the best SNES games, which is really high up there. There's a lot of good SNES games, but this is one of the best. Like I said, proper gameplay, proper control, and the ending is interesting when you try to fight Dracula. And when you play the game and you wake up in the wee hours of the morning and you literally see the whole castle tumbling down, you know you just did something. You know you just felt like you Dracula. And it's like, wow, this is interesting. It's very fun. All the cheats are there. There's some cheats in this game. There's some fun things that you do, like the heart sheet where you go under the thing. I think the heart sheet is still there. I don't know. You can fact check it.
Next time.
It's muted.
My bad. So, okay then. Zach. 3 minutes.
Okay, Castlevania Bloodlines, aka the New Generation, was known in Europe as it had to be censored in Europe as to, well, the blood. The lots and lots and lots of blood, as in, blood. This game picks up where Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse drops off, where Elizabeth Bartley, analog to Bathory, is trying to resurrect Dracula and collect his remains all throughout Europe. And Quincy Morris, from the Bram Stoker's Dracula novel, his son, a distant relative of Belmont, has teamed with his best friend, whose girlfriend was turned into resurrected as a vampire, and you would go all throughout Europe these huge set pieces of like Gothic art and Italian Renaissance looking things all through the World War I era of Europe, and collecting his parts and making sure that Elizabeth does not bring him back. What's interesting about this one, to me at least, is that you have 2 characters with full-fledged move lists that play very differently. You have John Morris, the Belmont, in this one, where he does have the whip and he has the swinging ability on any surface, The whip is slightly stronger damage-wise. However, it is not as precise. That's where Eric, his friend, that you can also play as, has a spear that is incredibly precise, but you have the Super Mario 2 jump where you have to hold down, he flashes, and you can do a large jump. But you have to be very precise with your movements with a spear because, well, it's a spear. What I enjoy about this is the color and just actually traversing through more places than Dracula's castle. You are going through ancient ruins and finding creatures in different areas. This isn't just relegated to one small area, and it makes it feel like a bigger and more epic adventure because of that. And having more connections to the books, I think, is a boon. Because it makes you realize that these creators actually respect the original work. It isn't just a, Dracula bad thing. It's, we're actually going to think about where other vampire hunters could come from. And it is also the first, I believe, and possibly the only, don't quote me on that, for the first American to be a vampire hunter in the series, I believe. The way the graphics are used is great, where you see these giant tilting, like the Tower of Pisa is literally tilting while you are inside of it, and it looks absolutely beautiful. There's knocking over pieces of statues. It pushes the Genesis as hard as it possibly can, which the Genesis is a weaker piece of hardware compared to the SNES. This is just true, but pushing it to its limits is amazing. To me, at least, just on a technical level. You can just feel love for it.
Alright, guys, we've heard your 3-minute deliberations. 5 minutes on the clock. And get ready. A Grudge.
So, a remake to a good game, Mac? Why?
Well, here's the reason. The reason why I will admit that this is a remake, but this is a remake done well. I mean, we have had.
It is a remake done well,
and I'm not going to say
the purpose.
The purpose is it paints fans upon the whole entire lore. You're not just starting.
Thank you.
You literally, it improves the graphics and it improves everything about Castlevania.
It improves the graphics.
Let's not get away from your game, because what is the thing that don't get me wrong. While your game is impressive, it's still not better. You're talking about the remake. Why this is a remake? We're not talking about whether it's a remake or a good game. It's still a good. It's a remake or not. It's still a good game. So
Bloodlines actually continues the story.
It doesn't matter. We're talking about what is the best Castlevania game, not what remake is, whether the remake is bad or not. We're not talking about that. I'm going to talk about your game because let's talk about it. I mean, I'll admit your game is good. I played your game, but let's talk about your controls. You admit that the whipping is not good because you can't whip in all 8 directions.
You can't whip in all 8 directions, but you can whip in more directions in the previous Castlevanias.
Yeah, but you can't whip in all 8 just like Castlevania.
Why do you need to whip in 8 directions?
Because it makes everything simpler. It makes you feel like you're the person.
No, considering you can't whip all 8 directions.
And also another.
Anyway.
Well,
the whip looks like crap.
Your whip look like crap. It just looks like. I mean, let's not talk about.
It looks like an actual. We'll talk about graphics because my game looks like a goddamn Renaissance masterpiece.
Yours look like a little rope. Your whip look like a rope, and it's not that good. And also, it's the Sega Genesis. It's all dark, and everything is gloomy. Dark and gloomy. Mine is light and everything is.
Are you saying dark and gloomy in a horror franchise is a negative?
Yeah, but yours is literally dark and gloomy. And also, let's talk about your weapons.
Let's
talk about your weapons. Your control is still not good. Eric Ricardo can only whip in that control action. When
Eric Ricardo doesn't whip at all. He has a spear.
He has a spear. Where he can spear. He can only spear up, down, left, or right.
No, that's not true. He can actually slip. He can do corners.
Okay. Well, let's talk
And
about.
he can hang on things.
All right,
And he does the super jump with it.
Oh, yeah, and can you control it?
Yes.
No. I tried.
Yes, you can.
I cannot control it. I could not control it.
Then you're
Because
just
you-
bad. That doesn't make the game bad.
And you gotta remember, you're playing it on the collection. I had to play it on the Sega Genesis.
I've played it on both.
You just told me a while ago that you played it on the.
No, I played it recently on the collection.
On the collection, yeah. I played it recently on the Sega Genesis. It still does not
And I could,
work well.
I
It's
could
so hard to
control
do.
it perfectly on the
Yeah, you
Genesis
could
back
control
then
it.
too.
I could not control it on the Genesis.
But then you're bad with the Genesis. That's not a reflection on the game.
When also another thing that's good about my game of yours is you get your weapon. What happens when you get hit? When you get your 4th grade on your weapon, what happens?
You lose it.
Exactly, you lose it.
Because that's how the games work.
No, it didn't work. It didn't do that with Castlevania 4. You don't lose your
No,
weapon.
it did that in the previous entries.
It did not do that in the previous entries. You get killed, you at least get a life bar. With yours, you get hit. Oh man, I lost it. Nope, you don't lose it.
No, you lose that, but you don't lose life.
No, you
Not to
lose
mention,
the
it doesn't have the
weapon.
confusion of
You
the
lose
hearts.
the weapon.
Losing a little bit of power on your weapon is not that big of a deal.
It is that big of a deal. And also,
Did it make it unplayable?
I mean, no, it didn't make it unplayable. You're true. But also, let's talk about your last level too. It's not that good.
Not that good. Are you saying that a slightly not as good ending negates the entire tapestry of going through Europe and going through monuments?
Look. Like I said, variety. There's nothing wrong with variety in games. There's nothing wrong with variety. But like I said, your game is good because Castlevania 4 came out or before. It took 3 games to literally get almost better than that. You literally
worked on it.
You literally had to take all the entries out of it.
You're wrong here, as the teams were different. They used different hardware back.
Yeah, but still, you have not. I don't feel like you really took nothing down about mine. You're just arguing that mine is a remake. You really have
I'm
And
arguing
that is time, folks.
All right. Angie, who do you think won?
Really?
Final question.
Oh, well, fine then. All right then. Because
You even watch Gamer Grudge, bro?
do I even grudge, bro? Fine. All right. Final question then. And I kind of already thought of a good one. Now, I know fairly well enough that both of your games have sub-weapons. Because staple of Castlevania series. How do each of your games utilize the sub-weapons to their fullest?
What do you mean by utilize it? Like,
how do they make sure they're still relevant?
oh, okay. Oh, I gotta go first.
Yep.
I'm gonna be honest. It just literally. I mean, I agree. Mine is just takes all the stuff that improves the graphics upon what you saw with the weapons. So I'm not gonna say that they improved the whole power of the weapon. No, they didn't improve the power. All they did was just they improved the way the weapon looks, the way the weapon is done. And the reason why it affects it way better is because of the control. Because instead of you having 2 buttons to use, like with the NES controller, and you got to press it up and down, you can literally press the triangle button, which the shoulder button, which gives you easy access to those sub weapons, which makes it very, very easy to do. So that's why I say it makes it easy to draw your sub weapons. It don't improve upon them, but it makes it easy. That makes sense.
Okay. Zach?
I'll say weapons still not improved either. What is improved is the placement of everything around it. Because you're not just going up, you were going down a lot, and a lot of the weapons utilize the functionality of things going down and having to go down levels very quickly, meaning things like the axe and stuff, you learn how to aim it directly down into enemies and kill them that way, and you learn how to kill enemies before you see them that way. I will also say that the Genesis has 3 buttons, ergo the sub-weapon is the 3rd button on there too. So
Okay.
the levels are designed more for the weapons themselves.
Okay. All right. Now we'll get back to our regularly scheduled scoring session. Angie, who do you think won?
It's kind of tough. Obviously, it's toss-ups. There's only 2, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Bloodlines just because of the argument that they both kind of made towards Mac's game, saying that it's just a remake, where I don't think Bloodlines is technically like really a remake, at least from what I can see.
I never said that.
Yes, you did, sir.
I didn't say his was a remake. I never said his was.
No, I wasn't saying you said his was a remake.
I never said that.
I didn't say you said that.
That's not what she said.
I never argued for his being a remake. I was like,
I didn't say you did. I said you argued yours.
Yeah, I didn't argue that mine was a remake. I was arguing that.
Mac, you're the one misunderstanding here.
No, yeah. I don't know what you. Okay.
That's my answer.
Okay. So 1 point for Bloodlines. Hirata, who do you think won?
This one's hard because, like...
Hirata, you're muted.
Oh. Sorry, I had to do that because of my dogs. So, this one's hard because... I want to know why you would choose a game that's a remake to be your pick. Why not just pick the original that it was a remake off of? Because obviously it was at least worthy of making and remastering and turning into another game. But when you're talking about it being light and pretty, that's not something I want to see in a horror game. I'm there for the grit and the darkness. So, because of that, I'm going to give it to Bloodlines with Zach because I do want a dark horror game. If it's all light and happy and stuff, I don't want to see that. Now, I do like seeing things that are pretty, but there are things that can be done pretty that are also dark. So that's where it goes on that one.
Okay. Oh, you want me to explain why I picked it?
No.
No, shut up, Zach. She wanted to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I would at least like to know why you picked that versus the one that it's a remake of.
The original was on the NES, and the fourth one was the best. The fourth one was the best one because they improved the graphics, they improved the gameplay, they improved everything, and they improved the control.
Okay, this is not a franchise I've played. I've seen it played, but I've not played it myself, so I didn't know.
The original is super hard to beat. The remake takes away the difficulty of the game itself. The remake does a little bit, wash that away, and does a little bit better.
Okay. Thank you for explaining it, because I really didn't know. And I was like, why would you pick a remake?
Nah, Zach brought that up, and that's the reason he was
Actually, you did in your own definition.
Yeah, you did. You did bring it up.
That,
You mentioned that it was a remake, so I was like, I
Your
played
whole
it.
argument was based upon the remake.
No.
Yes, it was.
No, it was actually closer to what Pyretta was saying, where I was talking about the atmosphere and the gloom.
Yeah, but still, it's not that good. That is not better. Just because you argued it better, still.
I already told Eric in the
Mac,
chat.
I think the points are going in favor of his. So
Still doesn't make it better in my head, so I don't care.
I know, but your head's dumb.
Your head is dumb. Let's go.
Alright, well, their choices make it easy for me, and to be honest, it was actually my reasoning for my choice is going to be based on the final question I gave. And my choice is going towards Bloodlines as well.
Okay.
Because I have seen both of them played. I have played both of them because, thank God for friends. do not feel Super Castlevania 4 was made with the sub-weapons in mind. They kind of became a bit of an afterthought once you could start whipping in all 8 directions. And like you just said, it took away a lot of the challenge of the game. What made Castlevania great was because it made you stop and think. And Bloodlines still technically does that. And I will say, technically, you could still have a dark atmosphere, but still have a colorful setting, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, you can.
So, yeah, this one goes to Castlevania Bloodlines, and Zach gets a point.
All right, I think you described your game well.
Oh, both of you guys described your games exceedingly well. Like, to the point where if somebody were coming in and just being able to, just not even hearing a Castlevania, which I don't know why anybody hasn't, they'd be able to be like, okay, these are 2 games that I'd be interested in picking up to see how they are.
I actually didn't even consider the sub-weapon thing until you mentioned it, so.
Any facts that we should be interested in?
No, not really.
Okay, so they kind of...
You know how they are. They pretty much ironed it all out.
Fact, the American box for Bloodlines is ugly as shit.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna argue.
I will not.
We're not gonna argue. I was about to say you try to argue the box.
A fun fact though for Bloodlines is that the traditional hearts that were normally gathered and used to power the sub weapons were replaced with red jewels.
Yep.
A fun fact about how Mac was bringing up that the whip looked like a rope. Whips back in the day were originally made of braided leather. Ropes are made of braided material. Everything's braided. So that's why it looked like that.
It looked like a little cartoon rope. That's why I was arguing. Cartoon.
Well, they're both braided, and a whip and a rope.
At me, cartoon rope. That's what I was trying to argue about.
Okay. I've got eyes on the YouTube chat. Not much there. And they saying anything on Twitch, on Mixer?
Twitch is quiet.
All right.
And nothing from your chat, Angie?
She's doing fact checking.
I'm fact checking.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have Mixer on
right.
my Mac.
Alright, so moving on to question 2. Hirata, if you would do the honors of reading that.
Yep, I'll get pulled up her. What game character... Wait, come on. Yeah, make sure. What game character could replace a Belmont clan member?
Alright. Zach?
I went with the player character for Bloodborne.
Okay, the hunter.
Depends.
No, it's the demon hunter.
The hunter of beasts.
Yeah, the hunter of beasts, but it's the hunter.
Not demon hunter.
Was a hunter.
Alright. And Mac.
I went with Ashley Winchester from Wild Worms.
Okay. 3 minutes on the clock. Zach, tell us why the Hunter of Beasts from Bloodborne would be a good replacement for the Belmonts.
He'd be a good replacement as he is already adept at using multiple types of weapons, and some of these weapons already have multiple forms. So would already be used to the concept of the whip evolving and having multiple types of sub weapons on his person. Not to mention the regain system with health. If you want to say that would still be a part or not, whatever. But just that being experienced with, the cane in Bloodborne is already a whip. He understands how to wield it. And he has faced scarier things than vampires. He's faced werewolf villages, alien things, giant Cthulhu creatures, literal madness, entire literal nightmare realms. To him, this would just be kind of another day. I'm just going to bring it up for a comparison. He would kind of be like how Trevor feels about it in the beginning of Castlevania, where he's a little bit like, ugh, doing this again. But he'd still be incredibly skilled at it, as just combat adeptness is his bag. And just multiple move lists, health regens. I mean, I can't really think of anything unless you want to count using the weapons he already has, because then you'd have the muskets that they use to counter hit and then stun and then hit your enemy with your actual weapons, such as the folding out saw, the boom hammer, which is a hammer that explodes, pile driver, which is powered right in. It'd be basically a steam power, not steam exactly. I don't know how exactly. I think it's black powder stake right into them. You have any regular. You can either shoot like a cannon, you can shoot a pistol, you can shoot a rifle, and these are used more for counter hits than they are used for damage. And they're used to make the enemy stunned. And being able to stun enemies is very powerful, especially if you have a giant ass sword you can pull out and then just slash them. And, I mean, you have Ludwig's sword, which is a sword inside of a bigger sword. You have all of these transforming weapons you can use, which, you have the axe, which makes it longer. Not to mention, if you decide to dual wield, then you have a completely new moveset to play with, which can create giant helm splitters. You can literally split them, from jaw to groin if you feel like it. Like, it is and he is used to the brutality of all of this. None of this would faze him. None of it would even come close to phasing him. So, honestly, it'd be like his vacation day.
Perfect timing.
All right. Mac, 3 minutes on the clock. Tell us why Ashley Winchester would be good at replacing a Belmont.
Well, I really think the reason why Ashley Winchester would be good at replacing a Belmont is Ashley Winchester did not play Wild on the Street, which is one of my favorite RPGs ever. Ashley Winchester starts off as a soldier. He starts off as an orphan, grew up in the military, and he was part of a group that turned into a soldier, and went from a soldier to to a literal, I want to say it's an advanced farming group called the Musketeers, and he went into a more expansive, more secretive, sort of like the bigger higher ups, is the honor to be a part of, which is arms. And what happened is, so Ashley Winchester, and not only that, Ashley Winchester is in a world where there literally are demons, there are literally hellcats, there are literally werewolves, there are wolves, there are different animals out there. Literally goo out there. I mean, there are different types of beasts out there that he has to fight daily. So this is him before we get to the top thing I'm talking about. Like I said, he literally got to a point where he was a part of arms, and during the ceremony, everybody literally turned into monsters, including him, because these people literally wanted to summon Dark Blazer. And Dark Blazer is this evil entity that's really the worst thing that can ever happen to the first part. So what happens is he tries to call upon the sword messenger, which is the sword mages, takes the sword, and the sword literally empowers him with the power of Lord Blazer. And he has another form called Night Blazer. Now, I think the reason why this is interesting is throughout the entire Wild Arms series, he does learn how to use the Night Blazer, but if you put him in this situation with it, because the problem with the Night Blazer is he can use it, but it takes apart his soul. And I think this would be something he would be a great character, a great companion to be a part of the Belmonts. He would learn something new, and believe me, he will. Ashley Winchester will get the job done. I mean, there was a little comment coming for a little I don't know, it was a comic or something was coming towards the planet, towards the planet, and he literally used the power of Lord Blazer to go to up there to destroy it. He literally destroyed it. He gets results. And at the end of the game, he does eventually defeat Lord Blazer, which is the evil entity that's a part of him. He is Ash Winchester is great. He's easily trainable.
Thank you.
Can I just say that's awesome? The complete stoppage with the guys. Kudos to both of you. No going over. Love it. Appreciate.
Yeah.
Pros.
Kudos.
Well, when you're part of the staff, you get a feel for it.
Indeed. All right, guys. 5 minutes on the clock to tear each other apart. Starting now.
How exactly is Lord Blazer actually scarier than Cthulhu-esque gigantic?
Because he's an evil
lord.
Well, I mean, he's not. I'm not gonna lie, he's not scarier. But I want to know about your lore because within the lore of Bloodborne, doesn't evil have to exist? It also is an towards the So that means if you put him in that situation, that means if he destroys Dracula, wouldn't he become the next Dracula?
No, that's not how that works.
That's the way the ending was. That's the way the ending was in that particular. That's the true ending. That is the true ending.
No, that is the ending of the Bloodborne story, not of the Castlevania story.
No, exactly.
He's a Belmont. He's transformed into because of a character in Bloodborne.
But you're taking that character out of there. If you take that character out of there,
then the person who turns him into it doesn't exist.
And also as an added bonus, it's not also as like I said, it has to be in the same lore because he literally destroying demons. He destroys demons in that world. He's destroying demons in this world.
No, mine
that means
he's
collecting blood. Am I right? He's collecting blood. Those things are blood.
No, he only collects blood for health and the gems for power.
Exactly, but he would be collecting blood. So that means he would get the same system that works.
Would not be the same system because they are not touched with the madman's knowledge, so it wouldn't have the same effects.
But okay, they're not touching the madman's knowledge. And how does he get stronger? I mean, you're talking about a guy.
I'm talking about how his weapons are being adept at the weapons.
Yeah, but he has to have that power.
He does not. He does not need to use a gun. A gun does not require madman's knowledge to fire it.
Yeah, that is true. But you need to learn how to do. So you're trying to take a character.
What I want to know is how exactly you're going to change your guy in case the whole demon infection thing gets.
I don't need that demon infection. He was already good without that.
No, he was just a soldier. He was a grunt.
He was not a grunt. He was a part of arms.
He was part of arms. He's a spec ops soldier in a goddamn nightmare universe.
He was in a nightmare. Yeah, well, but you're taking her characters, taking away, counting down all his powers, and literally putting them in the world and giving them weapons. And also, as an added bonus, isn't he about halfway dead? Isn't he supposed to be getting some type of? Doesn't he have some type of disease too?
Everybody in that world has a disease.
Exactly, so he will have that. You're hitting that
the dimension itself is disease, not the people in it.
Like I said that.
Him. You take him out of the world, it is no longer corrupting.
But here's the point. The point of the matter is, you take him out that world, he's still not all that powerful in that world. He's going to be just a guy with a bunch of weapons who needs to learn how to do stuff. This is not going to be a vacation. It's not going to be easy for him.
It'll absolutely be a vacation compared.
No, it's not going to be a vacation because he was not this powerful before that. All that. Also, is that a bonus in the game? Or is it a dream or not? I don't know. That's the thing about Bloodborne. Is it a dream? Is it not?
Because we're talking about Cthulhu-esque nightmare shit.
Exactly. It's a foolish nightmare. So if you literally are taking a player and taking them and taking away
I'm talking about
the power, if you're taking them out. Zach, you told me that if you want.
He doesn't have superpowers unless he wants them, and you don't even need to use them.
He's strong without those powers.
He is. He
He's
is
not.
literally. He can still fire a
You
gun.
can't prove it. Oh, he can fire a gun. Anybody can fire a gun.
Exactly. He can fire a gun. He can swing a sword.
Ashley did, like I said, Ashley Winchester did this. I literally built it up. Ashley did this before he even got Dark Laser. You did all this after you literally drunk that potion into that room. That's the player that's when you started your whole entire journey, when you did that, that's when your journey began. The Cthulhu
Yes,
weirdness.
that is when your journey begins at the beginning of the game.
But is he, but in
We're
that
talking
part
about the
of
character.
you do not have,
Wait,
yeah,
check.
true.
Okay. It's an interconnection with unstable for a second there.
My bad. No, all right. But what I'm trying to argue is you're literally taking a character out of their realm and literally trying to put them in this realm and say, oh, he's going to...
That's the question you gave me.
Yeah, that's the question you... Shut up. You're taking a
You're
character...
arguing against the question you wrote.
I'm not going against the question you wrote. You are literally arguing that he doesn't have those powers. That's what you're saying.
I didn't say he had powers. I never mentioned them. You did.
Yeah, but you literally have to say...
That is time. That is time.
Woo. Now that was a bait. Damn.
Can we get some bonfires up in the chat? Holy crap!
Wrong series.
I think we're gonna need some like staff mediation after this one.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Oh no, I'll forget after all of this.
Yeah, me too.
You hold on to it.
All right.
You just keep bringing it up.
Shush.
Do any of you have a final question?
Not really.
Angie?
Nope.
You guys got nothing?
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Heavy indeed.
And I kind of need a final question because I'm like, I need more to go on. I'm so torn. Okay, I have a question. That might help at least bring me to a decision. Hopefully, maybe we'll see. And I don't mean this as a debate or anything, but the question will be the same to both of you. If your character that you're casting in as part of the Belmont clan for your game itself that you've chosen was being done as a movie, I want you to pitch that character in the movie for your Castlevania game.
So he has to be
So-
the character in the movie.
So your character that you've picked to replace a Belmont clan member this is going to be a movie instead of a game now, okay? I want you to pitch the game with one of these characters being replaced, one of the Belmonts being replaced with your specific character that you've picked, okay? So basically Winchester's your lead.
Basically, Winchester's leading guy. Okay.
Yes, your character pick is the leading role of this movie for your Castlevania. Pitch me the movie.
Okay, because it's the player character, what I'm going to do is we're going to hardcore Henry this, where it's nothing but wall-to-wall violence and guts, and you seeing his arms and his power. The character himself is for whatever you think he is. You're not seeing his character. You're seeing how everyone reacts to him with with his weapons and murdering all of these things around him. That is how I pitch him. I pitch him as an insert, like Hardcore Henry or Maniac.
I gotta go. I'm picturing mine is basically it's sort of like Lord of the Rings and Lord of the Rings meets Game of Thrones. I want to make this as graphic as possible. That's how I mean. It's sort of, his character is going to be. He's going to be stoic and he's going to lead them to the mission. And he's really in the rain. You can see him literally in the rain, the darkness coming in with a hood on. He's one of those characters you can literally see with like with a hood in a hood coming in on the moon. You know, in the beginning, you see the stranger coming in. He's security. You see coming in the village with the hood on. You see that big old gun in the back coming in there, and you just know. You know, those you see the blue hair. They go and watch it. You see the blue hair. It's like, oh shit, it's Ashley Winchester, and it's awesome.
That did not help as much as I was hoping
Not
for.
not gonna lie, I got kind of confused with your plot line there, Matt.
I mean, did he give a plot line? He just said Hardcore Henry.
Hardcore Henry.
Look, I just want to open it. That's my opening scene. I can't. You gotta give me time to.
Your opening scene is Game of Thrones.
No. I want to do something that this is gonna be like. Damn it! I wanted to redo this. It's gonna be like Game of Thrones.
Well, Mac, only Zero gets to decide if you're gonna read it. I'm just saying.
Hilariously, this might be from the fact that I feel like I've spent enough time around crazy. I understood that as best as I could. So I at least get the feeling of what you're trying to invoke with your pitch idea. So
I'm trying my best here. I'm trying to get into my head together.
Sorry, no, I'm just teasing you.
all right. Any facts before we go into
No facts
deliberations?
here. No facts here. They pretty much nailed all the information.
Oh, well, I guess I'm gonna have to be the one to point that out, point that stuff out. Then.
Oh crap! Go ahead. Hit me with the Bloodborne.
In Bloodborne, the you are right. The character does have a disease, but at the same time, Zach's right. They technically do not have any superpowers.
Okay.
I wasn't quite sure how to label that fact because they pretty much
Because it's been established in the lore that even before the provide use of the blood, the healing church hunters were able to use these trick weapons.
The powder keg specifically.
Yeah, without even any strength enhancements. So, and also, I'm gonna have to mention that looking it up, Ashley Winchester does not show up in Wild Arms 3.
Is it 4?
No,
it's 2. My bad. I was confused with 2. Sorry, I always get 2 when I always say 2.
Oh, I thought he said Wild Arms 4, so.
No, I said 2. I meant to say 2. Sorry, my bad. 2.
He also shows up in Wild Arms 5 as
Although he doesn't
character.
appear in 3, his arm and many of his special abilities are used by Cascade.
Yeah, Janice.
Yeah.
So, alright, now that that's done and over with, Pyretta, who do you think won?
I'm torn. I'm really torn on this. Can I go with a pass right now? Is that an option?
Oh.
Can I pass right now? Temporarily?
Alright, that's...
Like,
we can come back to
yeah,
you.
just cycle,
and,
just cycle back to me. I'm like, still processing.
I already know who y'all going for.
So yeah, then Angie, who do you think won?
I don't know. The arguments were pretty solid. You're also gonna have to give me a second. I apologize because I gotta work through it in my head.
I mean, it's hard. Like, yeah, I'm really torn. I could flip a coin at this point. I'm not going to do that because that's not how I roll. Like, I want to go based on the information I was given to make my decision. Because otherwise I could go based on my bias about what type of things I like and don't like, but I want to keep it to what was presented. So I'm like, this one's hard. Game, you guys.
Okay, then. I guess I'll be the one to go then. Given the arguments that I've heard for both the Hunter of Beasts and Ashley Winchester, I'm hearing somebody who's been trained versus somebody who got handed into the situation that they're given. And while the differences between each of them are very stark, I'd honestly rather have, this is a little personal bias, given it's still definitely based on the arguments. I'd rather have somebody who would know what they're going to do and execute it compared to somebody who is said, here, have this item and go flail it at people for about 10 seconds straight and see what happens. So I think my vote is actually going to go towards Ashley Winchester.
What the fuck?
I saw it going that way.
I did not see it going that way.
Yeah, that's funny. Your reaction was priceless. We need to clip that and like keep that as a highlight.
We can do that.
Serious. We need to clip that, make that a highlight. I haven't gotten that far with editing, so that's not one of you guys, but clip that. That was beautiful.
All right. Either of you two disagree with him?
No disagreements here.
I don't disagree. Me, I'm torn because I'm like, I'm obsessed with all like Lovecraftian stuff, obviously. So I'm kind of like, I want that guy, and he definitely in the images of what was shown looked cooler, but based on the training. Because, I mean, a gun's a gun, and that's what's awesome about guns, is they make everybody equal. It doesn't matter how big and bad you are, or how tiny and weak and frail you are. That's the amazing part of them. But I'm going, give them a different weapon. Don't give them a gun. Put them in this game. See how it rolls. Max comparing demons to Lovecraftian critters, which are technically alien beings, but in a way they could almost be considered deities or demons themselves based on their powers. So I'm kind of like, who would not basically be terrified going into these situations in Castlevania, fighting the monsters that are in this game? And I think they would both be equally as composed as the other. So that's where I'm really struggling to come to a real answer. I mean, to my knowledge, I might be wrong on this because, again, I've only watched some people play Castlevania. I have not even seen, like, opening, starting up of the game. I've seen it, like, midway through. I've never played it myself. Hey, that's rude. The games, I don't think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on this, fact check it. Fact check me, rather. The Belmonts, they don't truly have any special power. It's more like kind of like their clandestine duty to fight. So in a way, because of that, unless I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. 'Cause, like,
Technically, after Trevor and Sypha have a kid, Simon does at least have power to use the fire on the whip.
so one of them has a power.
And not only that, but if I may bring up the notion of Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, just Belmont is actually considered the most magically inclined Belmont.
Yeah.
But overall, they
There are
aren't
magical
people known
Belmonts.
to have powers. Overall, for the majority. So,
Sure.
So I was like going through each Belmont
The-
just to like make sure.
yeah, no, you see, like, I don't know because I've not played, and
Can I just say something quick?
yeah, go ahead.
Angie, now you know exactly how I feel during the Zelda fights. You understand why I complain every time now?
So
In this
hinging
series,
on that
doesn't
it
have
was
any retcons.
So hinging that it was brought up about abilities versus actual skill set. And whether or not basically you're implying that someone could be nerfed like Superman by holding up some kryptonite, by removing them from their yellow sun, which gives them their ultimate power, by taking them and putting them into a different world where they're not diseased, making them just rely on skill set, it gives the slight, and I mean slight, like, nickel-thin edge to Winchester, just barely. But what character would I want? Now, so I give the win to Winchester with Mac, but the one I would want to see would be Zach's character. That one, like, I'd want to see that dude in a Castlevania game. I'd probably play it.
I could honestly see a Castlevania cross Bloodborne, like,
I would still play that shit. That would be
That
great.
basically is the new Castlevania, other than Bloodstained. If Bloodstained didn't exist, it's essentially the new
So
Castlevania.
don't think you didn't pick a great person, because, like, the way you pitched him, Zach, I'm like, I want to see this game. I want to play this game. I would be down with this.
You have a PS4?
Yes. Yes.
What?
Yes.
Then you can play this game.
Damn, I'm gonna play this. Okay, I'm about to get that.
It's actually pretty cheap right now.
Really? Sweet.
oh yeah,
Well, it was early game,
Oh,
early
okay.
life cycle.
Okay.
yeah. Bloodborne is actually an amazing game.
'Cause it sounds really cool. I'm like, I've missed out.
It's they took all the lessons from Dark Souls and turned it into a game that was
I've
even
been
more
told that
action-packed.
Dark Souls is the best game. My adopted, bigger, younger brother is always telling me if I ever get a chance to play Dark Souls, to do it. That I'm going to love the story
Do not
so much.
Play the unpatched PS3 version. I did that, and I got into Flight Town, and that was a mistake.
Uh-oh. Okay. But I'll have to check that game out, because it sounds pretty sick, to be honest. So, you sold me on a game, man.
All right. So we are tied 1-1. So moving on to our next question. If Zach wants to bring it up soon. Which is
What is the
What?
best?
yeah, what is the best sub-weapon in the Castlevania series? Mac?
I went with the stopwatch.
Give me a sec.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I want people to look at the screen and stopwatch.
Yep, stop.
And give me a sec.
That's the itty bittiest picture. Okay, thank you. I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at.
I'm glad you got it from Castlevania. I bet you got it from actually the best Castlevania.
No, you're
There we
right.
go.
So rude.
Oh, they didn't
Alright.
do it. They didn't do it.
Yeah, it did.
You're still
They didn't,
rude.
don't show you the stopwatch.
It did stop when I did it.
Yeah.
It's,
I didn't see
that,
it.
do you not see the Noosa head not moving?
Oh, yeah.
That's how else would that work?
All right. Anyway, and Zach.
Give me a sec. I went with the holy water. You mean that we both went with our? picked both of our favorite respective games. I don't see how that's a slight on either of us. I'm just saying I'm glad I got footage of both.
Yeah, true. I'm glad you got it too.
All right. Anyway, 3 minutes on the clock. Mac, tell us why the stopwatch is the best sub-weapon in Castlevania.
All right. Look, the thing about the stopwatch is it's an interesting. It's throughout all I think it's throughout all the Castlevanias. I don't know if it is, but it's. I'm going through Castlevania 4. It's the weapon where you just really want, like, you get it, you just it stops everything in its tracks. Now, if you saw on the screen, I'll admit that it stopped in an awkward position where you couldn't get the Medusa head. I agree, but there are certain situations where it does stop. You could be in a situation where you're literally depleted by strength, and believe me, in Castlevania, there is no way when you whip a candle, there is no hearts in that situation. There's nothing going to pop up where you need to get a pork chop, and that will survive this game. When you see a pork chop, thank God, I got a pork chop. But when you get the stopwatch, it gives you a moment to just breathe and literally hit the enemy. It stops them in the tracks. It's interesting. I admit that if you get to like big bosses, it doesn't help you because it won't be there. It's not an item that literally helps you with the big boss. But that's something good because it's not game breaking. It's something that just helps you in a pinch. And it is the best item because it's an item that gives you a moment to breathe. And that's what you need, a moment to breathe. And I think this is the reason it's the best sub-weapon from Castlevania.
Okay, definitely under time. All right. 3 minutes reset on the clock. Zach, tell us why holy water is the best sub-weapon in Castlevania.
Well, my main reason is that it helps with ground enemies and that you can actually hit them. Because ground enemies in Castlevania, because the whip is so high up, when you're using it, even when you can whip all directions, you can't always hit it when you want to. And it doesn't have the weird angle like the axe does. So you have this thing where you can just put it in front of you, and you have a little bit of protection from not being immediately decimated by a creature on the ground, because that is a severe problem in this series, that ground enemies are rampant. And as you saw with the Medusa heads, they do these weird arcs. I will say it does not stop them in the air, obviously. And depending on the game, the holy water can make a flame wall or just sit there and burn for a little bit. It depends on it. And the other thing I want to bring up is holy water actually makes Simon's Quest beatable, which is very, very hard to do because there's so many hidden ways to fall through the floor that you literally cannot see. You throw holy water on the ground to see if it goes through and there's holes. But what I really want to focus on more is the aiming aspect, because most throwing weapons in Castlevania, you either throw straight forward, you have the giant axe arc, but you never have the directly in front of you as much as you would like, and that remedies it without breaking anything either. That's how I feel about it. That's how I've always used it. I like throwing it from on top of a higher level and being able to aim lower and then have it stay enough that it can hit the enemies instead of having to time it perfectly every single time. That's my argument.
Okay. Hearing each of your arguments is definitely got some interesting ways for these sub-weapons to be used.
I mean, everybody uses a weapon.
Yep. 5 minutes on the clock. And boys, duke it out.
First of all, can we just forget about Castlevania and Simon's Quest? Because I don't want to get
on. Because it is part of it.
No, we don't have to talk about this.
That's why I only said it once and then moved on.
Yeah, because can we just both agree that Simon's Quest sucks ass?
It does. I just said it made it beatable. I didn't even say beatable.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, just want to put that out there.
And I want to say the main problem I have with the stopwatch is, one, it costs a lot to use.
Yeah, you're right. It costs a lot to use.
And two, you can stop yourself in unwinnable situations.
That is true. And like I said, it's not a
high risk, high reward.
It's a high risk, high reward, and I agree with you 100%.
It's not reliable.
It's a high risk, but I'm telling you, it might got a high risk, but when you get it right, it's right, and it does the job.
And that takes away a lot of the strategy elements from the Castlevania series.
I agree. But the holy water is, when you first start off with it, the first game, or holy water or the holy or bomb, it's not as I'm not gonna lie to you. In Castlevania, I played the original Castlevania for 1. I played Simon's Quest. I played Simon's Quest, Dracula's Curse, and I played 4. Hell, I played Dracula's X, and I played Bloodlines Symphony of the Night. I admit, it gets the holy water does get better in Bloodlines. It does get better in Bloodlines. It's interesting in Bloodlines. Symphony of the Night, it falls back a little bit. Me and I, talk about the N64 version. That was shit. But I'm gonna focus on the other games. They advanced upon the holy water, but in the stopwatch never changed. It's something that didn't need tweaking. This needed tweaking.
It's also such a simple concept. There's nothing to change. There's no way to actually, it did change once.
It changed. No, it changed in Bloodlines. You just not see it a little. It didn't do that. It didn't do the things.
No. I said the stopwatch changed the symphony. You're wrong.
Oh yeah. It did. Yeah, it did. Yeah. But
and then they nerfed it again.
Yeah. But
so I'm saying that both of ours have had ups and downs, power-wise. I'm talking pure utility.
Yeah, and yours just as good in one game.
No, it's good in all of them.
No,
when is it not good?
I'll tell you right now, when I get to Dracula, does it work on Dracula?
No. It's not meant for him.
No, you want to get the little axe at that point, because it works.
You do not also, do you want the stopwatch for Dracula?
You can't use the stopwatch for Dracula.
Exactly, so why are we talking about that?
Yeah, but this is the
I'm talking about using this as a problem solver and as a utility against enemies.
Yeah, but you cannot use it against Dracula. And not only that, if you talk about, let's go ahead and talk about Dracula's Curse, Castlevania 3, which is the hardest of all of them. When you get that holy water, does it stop the little jumping in the wall people? No. You do not want the holy water right there. You want a different weapon. Not only that, the creatures on the ground are usually the creatures you can avoid the most. Sometimes you can avoid them most.
Sometimes, right there.
You can avoid them. If you cannot avoid them, then you really are not good at Castlevania. You can avoid them. You don't need to
can avoid them. I'm talking about actually having utility with it. You're trying to say just all these little time things that, and guess what? Yours is literally.
I'm not going to sit up here that say that the time watch. I admit, you're not admitting that yours literally is built for that one moment.
It's not built for one moment. It's built for. I told you about.
No, it's built for that one moment.
You saw the picture of me throwing it at an enemy there.
That was Bloodlines, and which goes back to my point, which is just one game. It gets good in one game. Well, what about the others? It doesn't do well in the others.
I was using it in Super Castlevania 4 when I was capturing footage.
And I did it in the Super Castlevania 4. What I'm going to do? Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah, I'm just throwing water
you mean the things that have the amoeba fucking tentacle things that drop from the ceiling?
Yeah, I literally hit the... If you literally know how to use the damn whip, you know the dad don't hit the whip. That's the
Or I could just use the thing, and it would be easier, and I would be using more strategy.
That's what the whip is for.
You can...
If you want to talk about strategy, then you know how... If you don't get to the...
We're talking before about how the whip is overpowered in 4.
You just said you used it in 4. Am I correct?
did.
And you said I needed it with those little enemies. You saw it. I said,
Yes, time, folks. Time.
Whew. As you can see, folks, the vitriol between these two is legendary.
Woo.
Still not
Okay.
as bad as the Mega Man fights.
Oh man, I don't know if I want to see those though.
Anyway, guys. Angie, Pyra, you guys have any final questions?
Really do a Mega Man Legends.
Not enough.
No questions on my end.
No, no questions.
Okay, I got one that would make that would make or break this entire argument in terms of which way any of us could lean. Question to both of you. Because you have said that you held your sub-weapons in high esteem, how bad is it to lose them in terms of personal feeling?
What do you mean lose them? Like if they literally stopped it?
Or
No, how?
if you
it's
accidentally
like-
pick up another weapon.
There you go. If you accidentally picked up another weapon, how negligible or how important would that choice be of accidentally picking up another weapon to making or breaking your ability to continue? Mac?
Picking up another weapon, it would hurt. It would really hurt. I'm gonna be honest, it would hurt. But eventually you'll get over it because in Castlevania, it's not about the first weapon. You always are gonna have. You gotta go. But if you're a veteran of Castlevania, you gotta learn that you're never gonna keep the first sub weapon. And I'll admit it will really, really hurt at first, but you just gotta know. You gotta push on. And it's gonna hurt. And you just know that. But what makes it hurt more is the stopwatch. But what makes it really, really hurt is the stopwatch is rare. It's a rare item. It's just one of those items that it just don't pop up anywhere. If you get it, it's like, got it! And then if you lose it, it's like, fuck! You know, it's just one of those, that's the stopwatch. It's that item. And one thing I'll admit, and they're going to fetch it this anyway, you can't keep it. So, yeah, that's it.
All right, Zach?
I'm going to say this from the perspective of my playstyle. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's...
I just want to be sure. Because with my playstyle, I am a very strategic, careful player on Castlevania where if I lose a level, I like to pick the sub-weapon that will move ahead the best. So when I lose it, it feels like I just had to press the reset button on the console. Because I'm like, crap, well, I know I need to be close. Crap, I cannot jump where the axe needs to be. I did not want that. No, because I plan out what I think I'll need. And maybe I have alternate strategy sometimes, but other times it'll happen and I'll be like, no, I needed that so bad because I had the perfect strategy going in, and now I am screwed. That's how I feel about it.
Seems to me you need to play better platform games. You play more platform.
Hey.
Getting personal.
All right. Since we did have a skip to effectively me at the last round, Pyretta, who do you think won?
When it's being brought up on the expense
Yeah,
of
it is.
God damn it.
What he said.
Sorry. So when it's being brought up about the expense of using your item, I know that's very important to me, especially as someone who's mainly playing games where she's a tank. Cost of weapons, great risk, great reward. I see the imperativeness of their use. Wanting to reset a game because you screwed up and need the previous item
I knew that lost.
Been there, done that too. And because of that desperate desire to willing to go back and redo, almost an hour plus of gaming, that's where I'm going to side with the Holy Water with Zach.
Okay.
See, if
Angie?
you hadn't asked that.
Well, going off the arguments and also going off of some of the cool facts and stuff, I'm also going to be going with the Holy Water.
What are the facts? I'm curious.
Well, I know, like, it says here depending on the games, but, let's see, the consumption for the stopwatch is about 5 parts. It doesn't, depending on the game, it doesn't always work on enemies. It doesn't always work on everybody. And it sometimes, depending on the game, again, it's not like the rarest thing. It's not dropped by like some sort of boss or anything. It's dropped by like candles and common enemies. And then
Watch the stuff. Watch the Holy Water.
And then Holy Water. Let's see. It's also dropped by candles and common enemies.
It's high. It's very common.
It's a bit, yeah.
It's a common thing. Yeah.
And I know like some of the attributes and stuff also like vary per game, but I kind of like, I don't know, the fact that I have more spreadability, I guess, with a Holy Water compared to being able to like maybe or maybe not freeze certain enemies, where at least Holy Water will do damage to them.
Wow, y'all need to play Castlevania.
Your thing that you picked out is straight up time freeze out of ESO. So, and I use the hell out of time freeze in ESO when applicable. So I understand, and it's expensive, so I get it.
All right, so we got 2 for Holy Water. This actually makes my job easy, as Mac would say. I'd like to bring up that actually, yes. While it doesn't actually damage Dracula, Holy Water does still freeze Dracula in place.
But that's not fun though.
The thing is, when it's come to Dracula, by the time you get that final level, you're wanting to end that game.
Yeah, and I beat it several times. Y'all gotta just play some more.
I'm gonna be honest.
I'd play Castlevania.
Yeah, it more sounds like you're stroking your own dick rather than commenting right now.
Huh?
Right?
You're stroking your ego.
Yeah. Shut up, Zach.
Everybody has different play styles. That's why I asked the question.
Okay, now we need to split up. Stop doing that. That's not what they show.
Actually,
All right.
You know I'm right, Angie. Don't do that crap.
Anyway.
Oh, I'm right.
Given everything that I have heard between both the argument and the grudge round,
I thought you went with Zach.
yeah, I was actually saying that I was actually bringing up the fact that Holy Water can actually go with. I was just saying it was also easy because it doesn't matter which I choose. Zach gets the point.
Yeah.
But you bring it up, Mac. Yeah, Zach does get my vote as well because
Yeah.
Holy Water, because of the fact that it's so common and because ground enemies are so prevalent within Castlevania games, even games where in Super Castlevania 4, which you guys have literally argued that, and I said before, the whip is overpowered to the point that the sub-weapons in Super Castlevania 4 seem like an afterthought.
Yeah.
So that's why I based mine on just the original 3. Yeah, there's a lot more use out of Holy Water than the stopwatch in the original 3 NES games.
What do we choose to axe?
Nobody.
They do. We do. That Holy Water will not help against the Medusa heads. No.
I was gonna say, actually, Mac, if you had chosen the axe, you probably would have had a stronger argument.
Because it will not work against the Medusa heads.
No.
Yeah, Zach, and you know it. Try through that Holy Water against the Medusa.
No, that's
and that night, and the night before you fight, before you try to face death, You're
All
not
right.
going to face him. Yeah.
I
You did, and you know you can't win it with
no.
that.
All I want to say is, Mac, what I was talking about earlier is, I don't want you harping on the idea of playing strategically as opposed to playing reactionary. They are both legitimate strategies.
Just play the damn game, Zach. Damn it. Next question.
I'm talking about how you play it strategically.
I've been playing Castlevania since I was literally in high school.
And
know
I didn't have an NES.
Sucks for you. Next question.
All right. Angie, back to you for question reading.
All right, the next question is. Pitch the next Castlevania title.
All right. We'll go with Mac.
Oh, Castlevania 5. Or the next Castlevania, Night of Blood. I like that, because that's what I was going to look.
All right. Zach?
Castlevania, Gent of Desecration.
What the fuck?
It's based off of. Alright, do you want to tell them what the kind of style it's based off of, or should I?
Dude, it's like metal writing. That's what everybody says. What the fuck does your shirt say? And I always have to look down and go, oh yeah, I'm wearing Queen's
it's
Plague,
based off,
Whitechapel.
black metal
Yeah,
logos.
it's metal writing,
Okay.
metal font.
See, the better question I have, what's a gent?
I will get to that.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
3 minutes on the clock. Mac, pitch your game.
Give me a sec. Sorry, I gotta. Alright. Guys, the year is 1920. Vampires are more of an urban legend in Europe. Ishmael, a follower of the Belmont clan for 50 years, is now in fear of Dracula's return. He successfully did it before, but now, this time, he is growing old, and his successor has betrayed him to find Dracula. Now Ishmael must travel to America to stop his successor. So Ishmael, it's not going to be. I'm going to go take what Zach was doing and just take a different character. This is not a Belmont. This is a little part of the person that trained under the Belmont clan, and I want to make it in the 1920s. Literally start of the century. I really want to go within the first Civil War. I want to keep going into it, just like Bloodlines, but a little bit different. I want to go into that story of the first Civil War, and literally, the first Civil War is so interesting because there were castles, everything was torn down, everything was all the way with perfect. So that's why I want to set it in this era. But my gameplay will follow. I want to make my gameplay 2D. I want to make it 2D, just like the old Castlevania. I don't want 3D. I'm tired of 3D Castlevanias. I'm tired of them. I want to go back to the side-scrolling 2D Castlevania. I do not want Metroidvania. I fucking hate Symphony of the Night. No, we're not going Symphony of the Night. We're going with the old school. We're going with weapon all 8 directions, just like with Castlevania. We're not weapon all 8 directions. We're just making everything a little bit more easier. We're going to try to dial it back, make the weapon a little bit, make the player earn it a little bit. Also, I want to add in every time they go to a different part of the stage, they're going to go all across Europe, just like the Bloodlines. They're going to go all across Europe. They're going to go from Europe all the way to America. All the way from there to start. They're going to start off. I want to say they're going to start off from France. First level is going to be in France, and they're going to be on the boat fighting. The next level is going to be on the boat, and then the following level is going to be in America, where they were going to go. They're literally going to be. They're going to get a boat and go all the way from France to the south, and they're going to literally fight vampires in the south. Vampires are actually. I'm going to follow. Look, I'm just going to follow. The Vampire Hunter. The vampires have literally taken over slavery, and now Ishmael must fight the vampire. Not vampires taking over slavery. Certain people literally took. Ishmael is literally trying to go around Ishmael's followers trying to build Dracula in America. He's trying to start stuff in America, and he's trying to build this. I want to go from here to America. He's literally go side scrolling.
That is time.
All right. Interesting concept.
I wasn't doing it. I was trying to continue. I'm sorry.
Anyway, 3 minutes. Zach.
Okay. First, I'm going to explain what a gent is. You know how, like, in some metal songs, be like, da-na-na. A gent is the hard pop noise where it goes, da-da-da. Like that. That's what a gent is. It's that sound, specifically. So I'm carrying the sound motif over. And what the story is in my story, this goes to the future in, like, the latest titles, where Alucard has been alone too long and is literally gone nuts. And what his plan is to use this dimension traveling to go back and make a clean timeline with no vampires at all, and eventually just end himself. That is what he believes is the best. And he goes to a wizard guy to do this. And what he does not realize is that without the Tempest Clan controlling and creating these wars and basically thinning things out and balancing it out, that the creatures run rampant like a cancer throughout the entire world. And you play as one of the survivors at the end, who finds his way. Here's a song. He hears a song through it, and you go through the song. Through the power of the song, you end up going all the way back to Castlevania 1, where you have to stop Alucard from destroying Dracula and making sure that the castle remains. So basically, it's the gent is the sound, and the desecration is Alucard trying to destroy the castle. And you go through every permutation of the castle through the series, excluding the 3D ones. And they are Metrovania style, but they are done in the graphics of the time. So, but each one has how you are tracking is, this is a future, and things are kind of weird. The wizard guy, he has like a Baby Driver cassette deck. And the cassette that he has are the things that you are following. You are following the sound on it. And you follow the sounds through the castles to your eventual goals. And your goals are, obviously, to stop Alucard from screwing the timeline up into oblivion. He believes he's in the right. The wizard, on the other hand, does not care. He just wants the world to burn. And he thinks this is the best way to do it. So he is the actual bad, but he is not the active bad.
That is time.
Okay. Let's see how to do this, because technically we are pitching something that doesn't exist.
With pitch questions, we generally do a rebut.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, that is
rebut about our own question, not about theirs. About our own, try to formulate something about ours, not try to attack theirs, right? Is that what you want?
Yeah, go for it.
So I do not, let me confirm myself, I'm not going to attack Zach's answer. I cannot attack his answer. He will not attack mine.
Correct.
Okay. Also, I want to add so look, I want to fix this whole making the thing powerful in the system. I want to add something where the hearts are there, so you can get the sub weapons, but I want to add an element which I saw in Cuphead, which is something interesting. Literally letting you have a store. literally every stage you go to, you get a story. You buy something, you buy an item, you buy a certain whip that certain whip that allows you to whip in 8 different directions. I don't know, some type of curse where it makes you whip in certain ways, or books on how to whip. It really lets them whip in all 8 directions. That way, the player can go back to the past and do what they did in Castlevania 4 for those people that can do it, but set it at a certain price range. But I think the story is a good added thing to this, where each stage you do. And I like to say at the end, I don't want to resurrect Dracula. The twist is, I don't want to resurrect Dracula. I want to make Ishmael's follower actually become sort of use magic and try to just, it's like, I couldn't really just, it's like Dracula's finally dragged in and I can't resurrect him. He's like, fuck it, I'm actually going to try to I'm going to do my best to destroy this perfect land that's around me. And it's up to you to defeat him. And you beat him. And you find out that the person that was supposed to be your successor was a Belmont, was the final Belmont. And you basically just killed the final Belmont, which adds tone to the story of this is the last Belmont and this is the Belmont that is dead. And that's what I want to add. That's sort of what I
That is time.
I'll get into anything I have later on. So, Zach.
I know you got some facts.
I mean, I do too, but I'm not going to say them because the way we're doing this. But I'm happy that we're doing this because I wanted to actually explain mechanic. One of the mechanics, as I mentioned, is the gent and the way that each of the cassettes has a different soundtrack and a different castle in the world. The way I envision this is you actually gain more power because the closer you get, the heavier the songs get, the heavier the riffs get. And if you learn to whip or attack, depending on what you're using, on the beat of the gent, you get a quarter power boost as you progress. And that would scale over time. That you would end up with, as your power would go, so would it would still be a quarter, but since your power is getting larger, so would that inevitably. So basically, you would be learning how to time the bosses while timing the song, adding an extra layer of difficulty for those that want it, and maintaining an amazing soundtrack with the game. Like, that's why I'm thinking, in my mind, I kind of equate both these with a kind of like a Sonic Mania, Sonic Mania and Generations kind of twist to it. That's how I'm picturing it in my head. But basically, I want to use the music as an actual mechanic. So.
Okay. So, let's see here. Any final questions? Nothing, Angie? Okay. Then let me pose this to you guys then. For each of your games that you have proposed to us, give me one thing from your proposed games that you think would be interesting in the other's game.
So I gotta take something from his game and put it in my game.
No, you gotta take something from your game and put it in his game.
We can replace it, right? We gotta replace it, or we just take it.
You can either replace something, or you can add something that you think from your game that you would like to see be played out in his game, vice versa.
Okay. I would take out the Metroidvania from his game because Metroidvania is something that's really been tacked on. It's been like so many games in it. It's basically continuing on into other games. I think that's something that he needs to take out of it and go back to a classic. If you want to make a 3D platformer or something, make a 3D platform, but take the Metroidvania out of it because it makes certain players. If you take that out of it, it makes it accessible to all players. Because Metroidvania, I played Symphony of the Night, and I could not get it, and I played that game for an entire month, and I still couldn't get it. So I think if you were to take that out of it and literally put something more of going back to the old classic gameplay, I think that would be something that would be beneficial to the board.
Okay, so removing the Metroidvania aspect, which kind of, I mean, you could see that working, but that's not my call at the moment.
Yeah.
So, Zach?
This might seem a little superficial. I just want to preface that. I want to take the name Ishmael because I like the idea of the tapes I'm talking about being his white whale. If that makes any sense.
Take the tape, Ishmael sound.
They are his white whale. Like, call me Ishmael, Moby Dick.
No. I thought you were supposed to take something from your game and put it in mine.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, I thought that's how it would work. That's what.
Yeah, you take something from your game and put it into his.
Oh, what I would take from mine is, I'd actually. I think I would take the idea of multiple timelines being in there, like more than just the 20s. Okay. Sorry, I got that backwards.
Yeah.
No, I do wish that Ishmael thing was in mine, just because I like that idea.
Yeah, that was like, Sam, you just made your game cooler.
I didn't know if you knew the I don't know why you called it Ishmael.
I know. I called him Ishmael because it sounds like something that they would use back in the time. Look, I watched the Castlevania series. There was a character I feel like there's an Ishmael. There's gotta be an Ishmael.
Ishmael's a literary reference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's Ishmael. I feel like some kid got named Ishmael. Come on.
I did. I'm just saying, like, if it was in media, it's more than likely a reference to Moby Dick.
True.
All right. Anyway. Angie, who do you think won?
Why you gotta start with me?
Because it's either one or the other, and both of you say that too. Both the same thing every time.
I know. Well, I don't know. They both sounded really great, and I would definitely like to see both of them. But just to make things quick and easy, and based off the arguments, I'm gonna go with Zach's pitch.
I just knew it. Y'all was going to.
You won round two.
You do. Huh?
You run round two.
They picked me.
Yeah, they picked your answer. That's how this works.
Yeah, we agreed with you. That's how you won.
No, it wasn't 3. It's always 2.
Anyway, Loretta?
I do like both concepts of both games. I would say for the gents, though, I would actually rather see that not as a Castlevania game, but as its own independent, strip out the Castlevania-ness, and give your own new monsters and characters to it. That would be a sick-ass game. I do like the whole, like, not just time hopping, but location hopping for the pitch that Mac had made with his Ishmael character, whether or not he knew where the name was coming from. And actually, I really like that because I'm very much into literature, and I was hoping that there might be more in there. But what draws me to Max is that emotional part. I like things that spark an emotion in me, whether it be something positive or something negative. Knowing that you've killed off the final Belmont, oh, man! That would be sick to see at the end. So, I mean, that probably pissed a lot of the diehard fans off, but I'm like, that kind of twist that's something as a gamer I live for. Something like that just I did not see coming. It's like I stepped off a curb and got whacked with a bus. Like, That's what I like. So I would give this one to Matt.
Go from making it easy to making it hard. All right. Well, listening to both of the answers given, both the products on display, I will say, I'm sorry, technically you wouldn't be killing the final Belmont because Julius exists.
That is true, but this is just my timeline. I'm sorry.
True, but at the same time.
Yeah.
At the same time. Multiverse theory is a bitch.
Yeah. Multiverse theory is a bitch.
See,
I will say, though, that technically an emotional hit of that caliber has kind of been done, given the notion of, even though a lot of it's a mixed bag on whether people like it or hate it, Lords of Shadow.
Point.
Yep. Gabriel Belmont being Dracula.
Yep. Yeah.
That is something that, I mean, you already got the chance to play Dracula in Soma Cruz, but now you're saying that the Belmonts are linked to Dracula simply because Dracula is a Belmont?
That story, that's the reason I'm arguing the timeline so much. Why is Dracula Belmont?
Blame the religious overtone.
Yeah.
And I will admit, this one is actually pretty difficult for me to choose, because both sound very good. I mean, as I hear them, for what I'm hearing, to give good references of what I'm hearing Chrono Trigger meets Crypt of the Necrodancer versus, in Zach's answer, versus Assassin's Creed 3 meets Vampires.
You know what? If I lose this, I'm happy. I love Assassin's Creed 3. Yes.
Can I just say I'm happy that you know what Crypt of the Necrodancer is?
I am happy that you acknowledge.
Considering that I have Cadence of Hyrule on my Switch.
I am just happy that you would reference Assassin's Creed.
Well, I know people know what Cadence of Hyrule is, but I don't know how many people actually knew about Crypt of the Necrodancer, which is an awesome game.
Well, I'm just happy that you acknowledge Assassin's Creed 3 is a great game.
And the reason I say that is because technically Civil War times still effectively used the same weaponry that we used at the Revolutionary War, so technically there's not much difference.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of the historical difference, but we're not getting into that.
Yeah.
As I listen to these, and I think about them, I hate to do this to you, to both the judges, but we're going to a PvP round. I'm giving it to Mac.
What? Oh my god! I didn't think I was gonna make it. No, I thought Zach's was a good game. I really wanted to.
No, I thought both of yours were a very good game, but on the same token,
I want to play it.
Zach, yours excels on the notion of time travel to each of the different Castlevania games, but on the same token, strictly limiting it to a Metroidvania game as well breaks how the original Castlevania games were going to work.
I guess to me, I think since each would be a different iteration of the Castle, they'd each be different maps.
Yeah.
That's how
different maps, but it also did come down to gameplay mechanics and how well they'd mesh.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
down to it again. Here we are again. It always is this way with us.
Now here's the question: do we do a final round or do we tie again? Is the question.
Yeah.
That is, you know what? I will. have that be a deliberation vote between me and the mods. Majority wins. Would you guys rather have them tie again, or would you rather go to a PvP round and get the definitive winner?
Because we've done the tie again before. This is how this actually happened.
That's up to Loretta.
I'm all for PvP. We need an actual winner so we can go on to our finals.
Well, no, we're not. Me and him aren't in the running.
Oh, okay.
This is just a staff battle.
Oh, well, if this is just a staff... I mean, I still kind of want to have a definitive winner if we had a tiebreaker before. Excuse me, I'm going to mukbang this, though, because I need to eat. Dinner! Thank you.
So you want another tie, or just go to Mega Man Legends?
I won't fight.
All right.
Legends fight.
We've effectively got one vote PvP, and I left it to moderator choice plus myself. Guys, we're going for a definitive winner. Get your arguments ready.
Damn it!
Well, how can I get my arguments ready?
Okay, get your mind ready.
How can I get my mind ready?
Get your weapons ready, Zach.
I haven't been drinking enough for that.
I don't do well.
All right.
This is where I fall down.
We'll do the standard PvP of, let's see here. Looking for a coin here.
I actually have a coin.
Yes, but you're a competitor.
While true, I would say I've never rigged a coin toss.
I have one right here. I always keep it in my
Angie,
dice box.
you guys got one?
No, Pirate, I think she got one.
I do.
Pirate got one.
Pyra, you got? All right.
So, heads is whatever Pokemon this is.
That is Lugia.
Lugia.
Sure.
Why say Lapras?
That sounds
And then
gross.
Tails is the black side that's all, like, says Pokemon and stuff.
Can't see it.
Oh, I like those ones.
It's a Pokemon coin, so
Yeah, I was
Call-
given this because I needed a D2 for my D&D dice, so...
Alright.
So,
all right.
you guys gotta call it.
Lugia! Lugia!
And it's Lugia!
It's heads. All right, Mac, you could choose whether to choose one of us to give you a question or choose whether to go first or second.
Second.
All right,
Physical challenge!
Zach, who do you want the question from?
You.
Ooh, from me.
Fair.
Hold on, is it too late for me to pick the physical challenge?
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn it.
Okay, then. That was a quick response.
Well, I just want to say, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, this isn't an award ceremony yet. All right. Pick a movie character.
I'm going first.
Oh, yeah.
Buckaroo Banzai.
Nice.
That is definitely one I haven't heard of, but
Oh, you don't know about Buckaroo Banzai?
I'm also 29 years old.
Dude, it's like the shittiest but yet awesomest C-flick movie ever. I love it.
I'll look into it later, but at the same time, I'm just asking for movie characters, so if it's a movie character, I'll go with it.
It is. It's lead.
Ethan Hunt.
Okay. For your guys' question, explain how each of them would make a perfect Castlevania villain.
Ah!
Oh,
Yes!
this is awesome.
This is so good.
I'm loving this.
Oh, I can explain this really good.
Woo!
Now, do know I am not asking for the castle design. I'm just asking how. If you want to include it, fine, but it's may or may not be included in judges' scoring. That I will leave to the judges. I'm asking how they would be a perfect villain, what their plan would be, and how they would choose to oppose their rival clan, the rivals that they are fighting against.
So it went. So this is just Simon Belmont, just regular human, right?
Yeah, we'll put them each as the role of Dracula for this one, but
okay.
But they're in themselves their own characters. They're just taking Dracula's spot in this.
All right.
So Zach, you're going first.
Buckaroo Banzai, I know you don't know him, but here's two things you need to know. One, he is a master martial artist, meaning he is incredibly physically adept and can beat pretty much anyone's ass. And two, he is a genius. The movie's called Buckaroo Banzai across the 8th dimension because he discovers the 8th dimension. So basically, you wanted about the castle design? He could design a gigantic, technologically advanced castle, the likes of which, like, we can't perceive unless we perceive 8 dimensions. He also has very good team building aspects as he actually built a team throughout the film, so he would actually be able to get generals on his side, which is something Dracula needs to have, is underlings. Otherwise, he's screwed. So you have the castle, you have the underlings, you have, and specifically to defeat a Belmont, mostly just the ability to, kill him. He can zap you to somewhere else that's not there. Why would he not? Why would he wait? He just shoots the car with Belmont in it, and it goes to question mark.
Okay. Okay then. Mac?
Are you ready?
If Zach's done.
Other than that, I was going to say, he can, with the martial arts skills, he could easily be like Simon's equal physically.
Okay. So, okay. Now, if that's all Zach has, then yeah, go for it.
Look, Ethan Hunt. If you don't know who Ethan Hunt, everybody should know who the fucking Ethan Hunt is. It is the best spy in the U.S. This man makes the impossible mission. He goes through the most impossible mission. So who better than to create the most impossible thing in the world than the person that can do the impossible? This man will literally have everything down pat in that damn castle. He will literally have things in there that you have never seen before. And as for people that he has underlings for, he gets the underlings. He makes friends more than anybody. He'll get fucking Simon Pegg literally doing cybernetic things that you don't even know. Big rings with a fucking big gun and blowing shit up. Mackie G coming in there sniping people. That guy in the second one, I don't know his fucking name, the Australian. He gonna be doing some shit. And then you're gonna have Danny Newton, the thief, literally doing stuff that's being sneaky and doing stuff to Simon Belmont, literally maybe seducing Simon Belmont. And also, one thing I do like about Ethan Hunt, he is a master of damn disguise. He is very good. He can literally go into the castle, literally lure Simon Belmont into a trap, and literally pull. And that'd be funny. You literally get him in there, and Simon Belmont, it'd be in the game. If you play the game, and you literally see the trap, and you see just literally, you see that the guy said that they're smelling his plan, and he pulls out the mask, and it's Ethan Hunt. It's like, mission accomplished. This is fun. This is something interesting. I want to see this. I want to play this damn game. Da-da-da. Da-da-da.
That's good.
I heard you.
All right. Zach, you have a minute to add on to your argument or knock down Max starting now.
I just want to point out that Ethan Hunt is somebody who always needs orders. and really does not. He is reactive, not proactive. He does not have agency of himself. He doesn't have that kind of mind. Like, he can make friends, but he's not manipulating them. He's not a user. He isn't anybody who has the capacity to scheme. And for me, that would make a very dull villain if the villain has to basically be told what to do by somebody else. Because he has the skills, but he doesn't do anything unless something above him happens.
That is time.
All right. Mac.
Let me tell you how much that's a complete and utter bullshit. Because Ghost Protocol, he literally was literally disemboweled from the agency. He was doing all that shit on his own. Even in the next one, which is Rogue Nation, he was literally not even under orders. He literally was disemboweled from the CIA. They literally brought the IMF into CIA. He was on his loan. He was on his loan in that one. He pulled together the team and got it together and did the shit and did the mission in those films. Even in Fallout, he was on his own. He was literally doing shit on his own. He literally had somebody right beside him who was a damn villain who was beside him. He don't need the people to follow him. And as for yours is too futuristic. And I think
it's either or, Mac, not both.
Hold on, you can go. I have the time. I can do it. As for
that's
yours,
not what Zero said, though.
Zero.
I said or. I specified or.
So I can't talk about his.
You're effectively stuck defending yourself.
All right. Anyway, it's also as an added bonus, it's just as Ethan Hunt has done this. He's proven that he can do this, and also like I said, that's also adding a bonus when you talk about Rogue Nation and Ghost Protocol.
That is time, Mac. That's time.
How's that time? I didn't even. I had to pause.
You had a minute.
I had to pause.
I know. I paused for you.
Okay.
I paused the timer for you when you paused,
Okay.
and then I continued it on when you started again.
Okay. Pyretta, who do you think won?
Zach brings up a very, very good point about Ethan, and that is very much not so much that he'd make a boring villain. He may work out of the parameters and not follow orders, as Max supported clearly in his case, because this is true. I've seen every single one of those films. But Ethan always works on the side of good. He is not really a villainous character. Now, if you've ever seen Buckaroo Banzai, as I have, while he's not villainous in nature, he doesn't have that pure side, that complete motivation to be the hero to save the day. Which, yes, Ethan's a master of disguise, and tactically he's amazing, and yes, he's very charismatic, so he can get people, whether or not they're his friends, to at least work on his behalf. It doesn't bring up how basically, in the arguments, Ethan would need a lot more support from his underlings than you would be getting for Buckaroo Banzai with his mentor, Dr. I'm blanking, and the Hong Kong Cavaliers. Whereas he was definitely not just the leader, he wasn't necessarily supported, it was just they were kind of there and wanted to support him. Not that he was like wooing them to be on his side and to work with him. Zach missed a key thing that would have absolutely made him the ultimate villain and thrown that completely and entirely, undeniably into his favor. But bringing up about, Ethan would kind of be a lackluster villain, he is right, because no one wants to see him be the villain. Everybody's like, hey, if someone's going to have to save me because I've been kidnapped, that's the motherfucker I want saving me. So I would give this one to Zach.
All right, Angie.
I have to agree with Tyretta. I'm going to give it to Zach as well. But the thing that just stuck with me the most is just the fact that Mac's character needs to be told what to do, where Zach's character doesn't really.
Literally argued that he doesn't.
He's always working on an outside.
Schwarzkopf's protocol.
I have-
He did not need any help.
Hey. Okay. The time for being at each other's throats with serrated daggers is over.
Mine wasn't serrated, it was covered in poison.
Either way, it was a dagger.
I do not deny
So, well, this is kind of a doesn't matter who I choose, but I'll give my 2 cents on it. When I posed the question, I definitely wasn't exactly looking into alignment. So, at least good on you guys for recognizing that alignment wasn't exactly key for this. I will say that both seem like they would be very inventive in their trickery and how to defeat the Balkmonts. One would be more subtle, the other would be more forceful, but both would be able to set up means to really push the Belmont clan to its limits. But I also noted that they would have to wipe out the Belmont clan. And there's no better way to wipe out the Belmont clan than making them cease to exist.
Good point.
Therefore, by that little notion alone, that technically Buckaroo Banzai is able to effectively teleport them into a place where they could literally cease to be. That is Zach. Yeah.
Can I say, if it was the reverse, and if it was who would make the better Belmont, yours would have won, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, hands down.
Yes, you were not winning
Hands
that fight.
down.
You were not winning.
But the oscillator overthruster being able to teleport through solid matter, I'm sorry, that's like, why the fuck wasn't he a villain? Like, I don't know.
But if it was something, if you wanted to make him a Belmont, you would have lost. There was no there was no chance in hell you were
Also, I wanted to bring up the Jeff Goldblum's on Buckaroo Banzai's side as well, but I didn't do that.
I mean, I was thinking, I was wondering what he was going to do. I thought he was going to, my inventive way was, I can reverse this, because I thought Ethan Hunt would make a good Belmont, but also he could make a good, I can argue he could be a villain, so, you know.
And here's the thing. You actually brought it up in your defense when he's in Rogue Nation. He's been disavowed from the CIA. Sure, he's still doing things on the side of good, but technically, being disavowed from the CIA means you technically don't exist on the CIA's records.
No.
Meaning, you're allowed to get away with whatever means necessary, no matter how evil, no matter how cruel.
Right.
But to me, what I was trying to get at is, no matter, even with that limiter off, he follows the instructions.
He never followed. That was my whole argument. I thought, literally, I'm not going to lie to you, Zach, what you won with was the dullness, but I felt like the argument of him not being following orders, I feel like that was bullshit, because he doesn't follow orders in those 2 films. He's actually on his own.
I'm thinking that orders more in the line of how it would tear your mind out, like Full Metal Jacket, not orders.
But morally, Ethan's always on the side of what's right. Whether or not it's what his
kind of
leader says.
societal orders rather than...
You won the argument. You're still trying to argue that.
No, I'm not trying to.
You're still trying to win that point, and I literally slashed that point. The only reason you won was that I didn't argue.
Oh no, I worded that poorly.
Yeah, because if I literally figured out that if I got rid of the dull part, then we would have been in a stalemate, and I would have gotten it. I couldn't argue that. So touche to you. I'll admit that. But that's
All right, but congratulations to Zach for winning out in the PvP round. I'll admit that was a close decision because
I did not think I'd be able to win with a character you'd never seen. I'll be honest.
To be honest, you've actually turned me on to the notion of wanting to see that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
You
now
should.
hold on. It was a complete box office flop. It was like an $18 million like budget, and it made like barely over 6 or something like that. It was
it was
awful.
a megaton bomb of a
but-
movie.
And if I really wanted to do something very fucked up, I would have picked the box from the box boy.
Basket
case. Yeah, I would have picked him, and you would have been like, yeah, damn it, man.
Yeah, but Mac is just the choice he gave. Because we already had a replace a Belmont question. You should have known replace Dracula was coming.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I wasn't thinking that far, so you know.
It's okay.
It's the way of the PvP. I gotta.
It's the way the cookie crumbles, and
Yeah. I at least got here, Zach. So don't try to pull this shit like you said you were gonna decimate me. You didn't decimate me. You were on your toes to me.
I never said I would decimate you.
Yes, you did.
No, I said you'd be salty whether you won or lost.
No, you didn't.
no, he did say you'd be salty whether you won or lost.
He did say that, but he was talking shit on Twitter. Like, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna destroy you.
I never said that.
You did.
Anyway.
That doesn't sound like something
with
Zach
that
would say.
PvP round over, let's move it on to plugs. Angie, got anything to plug for us?
Well, as you guys know, I am always here hanging out with the Game Fixers, so make sure you check out all those fun shows that we have on the channel. You can also find me on Mixer, mixer.com/AngelicSin. I'm also on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and you can also find me on TikTok. And I also have a merch shop at spreadshirt.com/AngelicSin.
Very nice, very nice. Iretta, any plugs?
Well, you can actually. I'm going to be streaming tonight on Twitch at Pyretta Sapphire with 1 P in Sapphire. You can find me on YouTube at Pyretta Blaze, capital P, capital B, and I'm very frequently on Twitter at the Pyretta Blaze, beautiful yet dangerous on Instagram, and you can find me at the Pyretta Blaze on Facebook on my Facebook page.
All right, Zach, plugs.
Alright, I took a little inspiration from having a title thing at the end, and this is what I came up with like 20 minutes before we started.
Why?
So, I'm currently randomly known at Bumbo and Strider 2014.
Why? Just why?
Backwards Brains Labs on YouTube and at Mads of VBO on Twitch.
Is that just why though?
Why what?
Why the art? Why?
It's Zach.
Yeah. Also, just so you know, Zach, I'm just gonna be honest here. If you would have picked the best Castlevania game, you already know is what is it? What was the game you were calling? Genital jousting. I mean, that would have won.
Oh my god. Bring that up again?
Best Castlevania game ever.
Oh my god.
I'm about to put that in the list of. You're gonna get smacked on that one. Same with Trump jokes.
No! Hold on, wait a minute. Smacked?
Yes, smacked. I will find a way to reach my hand through my phone and smack you.
Send him a gif of somebody smacking somebody else. That's what I usually do.
I could send him Squirt Russell if you'd like.
No!
Oh, yes!
Anyway. Mac, because you are the technical host and leader of this entire lovely three-ring circus, if you don't mind going last.
Oh, no, I'm not.
All right, guys. I am Zero, producer of GF1 Studios. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/crimsonshooter with a Z. And you can feel free to, message me, at me, especially if it's video game stuff related, because I am always up for some good old-fashioned video game memes and whatnot. And still working on setup for getting my stream up, twitch.tv/Crimson Shooter with a Z as well. Just got to get a TV for the upstairs bedroom. All right, and we leave it to you, Mr. MacBool.
Hey, I got the show back. Okay. Guys, I want to thank y'all for watching. I want to thank everybody for coming here. Zach, I maybe call you a dumb. I'll maybe call you a fuck, and I cuss you out all the lot, but you know I love you, buddy. Congratulations, Zach. And also, I know a lot of people think I'm staying a little salty on us, guys. I'm just being honest here. It's at the first round. The first two were questions I actually thought I had. I did not prepare for the last two because things happen and I didn't. Also, if you're watching this later, and I'm sorry I didn't get it out sooner.
You're in excuses.
No, seriously. Monday I had. Huh? No. Monday we had that tornado, and I really had sleep since.
Okay, well that's understandable.
Yeah, I have not had. I literally hadn't gotten a night rest for an entire week. So, apologize not for getting the link out sooner. So I apologize for that. That's my fault, and I should have got it after the day. But like I said, I've been restlessly. And actually, in all honesty, I almost didn't want to do this episode because of things happening. But I'm glad I did it because we need things to get back to normal people, and this is normal for me, and I need to do this. So I want to thank y'all for bearing with us and coming on here and spending time with us and through this crucial time. Make sure you watch your games, and also want to thank y'all for that we got a shop. We got a shop. Andrew, where's the shop at? Because I didn't have it the last time.
Spreadshirt.com/GameFix. Wait, hold on. Let me double check that. No, shop.spreadshirt.com/GF1-shop.
So if you heard that, people, go to that shop now. Go shop now. Shop now.
I think they get it, Mac.
Okay.
They get it.
They should get it. Cool. Also, got plenty of stuff we're coming up. I think we got the GF1 podcast this weekend, right?
Don't know.
Okay. Well, we got the GF1 podcast coming up. We got the GF1 podcast coming right up, so get ready for that. If you like us getting raw, sorry that didn't come out right. If you like us acting crazy, yeah, it is this week. So this Saturday, make sure you go watch the GF1 podcast. Come see me, Zach, and Pyretta, and possibly guests talk about random stuff and shit. We're not going to talk about that. We'll talk about that on the podcast.
I mean, I talked about shit last time.
Yeah, we did. Shit. Little shit. Anyway, and if you like to talk about Game of Thrones stuff, you know what I'm talking about. Go watch the GF1 podcast. Angie's ready to kill us.
No, I'm not.
Damn it, Zach, what's that?
Just making sure people know what it looks like.
Yes, and the Hong Kong Cavaliers. Oh my gosh.
And that is Jeff Goldblum in a cowboy outfit.
Oh.
No, it's never really explained.
Okay, I was wondering.
Also, John Lithgow is hilarious.
Yes.
Of course, John Lithgow.
Well, yeah, but he's also been, he wasn't funny in Dexter.
But is Dexter supposed to be funny?
Surprise, motherfucker!
True. But anyway, I want to thank y'all for doing that. Thank y'all. So go watch that show. We got that coming on this weekend. And come back next Monday, where I will be back in the fighter's chair, where I'm going to literally just leave it to Anthony and Pyretta who wants to judge that fight. So it's going to be me and Eric going at it one-on-one, mano-a-mano, Matt versus Eric 3. This is the third round between me and Eric. Remind you people, talk your shit. Eric has not beaten me. Never, ever beaten me. I am undefeated against him. So, Darren, if you want I am 3-0 against you. If you want the daggone to face me, come on. This is your demon. You gotta fight your demons. Come for me. Anyway, so Matt Rosier is coming up. And also, am I forgetting something?
Yes, you're forgetting to thank our now 5,000 subscribers.
Woo!
Milestone. Thank you, everyone that subscribed.
Yes, thank you.
Oh my God, we got 5,000 subscribers. Shit.
Right? That's amazing.
No, I'm serious, guys. I already cried last night. 5,000 subscribers. That is fucking amazing. I have halfway to we just celebrated 3K Saturday.
Okay, and now Eric is fully aware of the mad shit you were talking. What?
Yeah,
Moving on.
moving on. Anyway, I want to thank y'all for getting us 5,000. We're literally, I want to say, 200 subscribers away from 6,000. So we are so close to 6,000. I think we'll talk about what we're gonna do for the next for the 5,000 subs. We'll talk about that probably off air. And also remember 10K. We're gonna do something drunk. We agree upon this.
Oh Lord. I'm not drinking till I see everybody else drinking.
Oh, don't worry.
That made my COD hard.
We're gonna do something drunk, and it possibly will be pre-taped. It will be pre-taped, just so you know. We'll do something drunk, but it'll be pre-taped. I apologize, it won't be live, but we will do something drunk. So get ready for that. So get us to 10K. Drunk, something will happen. I don't know. Maybe it'll be drunk gamer Grudge. I don't know. You'll see. But we're gonna have something that we'll have to do with drunk. I don't know, but we're gonna pre-tape it. So. But anyway, I want to thank y'all for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. I love all of you and everybody here except music. I love all of you. I love Angie. I love Paretta. I love Stro. Goodbye. I love you, Zach. I love Zach. I love everybody that works.
Okay, we need to wrap this up before we fall asleep.
Damn it, Zach, let me have my moment of love.
You've had more than...
Zach, I love you so much!
Alrighty, guys, that is the end of the episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you guys next time. Goodbye!
Thanks for that, bye! Alright. Hold on.
Cat, your butt is in the way. Everybody can see it. Cinnamon girl.
End screen.